And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. So, have you guys watched anything good on YouTube lately? Because I know I was part of something pretty freaking special. And in today's video, what I'm going to have to do is something simple. I'm just going to have to talk through my experiences because right now I feel like I cannot make any videos. I just can't right now because when I get my brain stuck on a topic, I'm not able to shake it. So I'm not able to shake just talking about Friday night's live we had. Now, if by any chance you haven't watched that live, I definitely recommend you watching that live before you watch this because this is more or less just going to be like my feelings, like how I think it went. Do I think it was more or less like kind of history being made in the hobby? And the short answer to that is yes. Like 100%. I think it was one of the coolest things I have ever been part of in this hobby. And I honestly mean this, that I think it's going to be something that people are going to talk about now for a long time coming. Like people are going to look back on this live as an almost like impossible thing to have happened. The amount of people we got on, the people that came on, just mind blowing. And you got to remember, at the end of the day, I am somebody who just loves this hobby, but I'm also, in a way, a fanboy to a lot of these people that came on, the live. Now, I do want to make one thing extremely clear, and just so we're all on the same page. So, yes, the lives and the podcast are on my channel, but in no way is it my podcast. I just want everybody out there to understand that the podcast is an equal part mine, Rattles, and Ryan's. Like, we're all just co-hosts, but it's our podcast, but it just happens to be on my channel. But I just want everybody out there to understand that 100% that is our podcast. It is not my podcast alone. So I saw a couple people saying, like that it was mine, but it's not. It's ours. It's mine, Rattles, and Ryan's. But so many little things needed to happen on Friday night to make that live pop off, to make that so special. And the first part is, you know, getting together with just me, Ryan, and Rattle. You know, I've talked about it before. I've talked about it in other lives. I got a lot of new subscribers, so maybe there's some new people to my channel who wasn't even familiar with my channel in the past. But we built this podcast together because for whatever reason, we had what I felt was very good chemistry in our first time we ever were together in the same like video was just me, Ryan, and Rattle. And it was just such a special experience. I felt that we needed to try to do our best to capture that at least one more time. So then that was when the thought of, okay, well, this live went really well. Let's turn this into a podcast series and let's just see if it would work. Let's make it a monthly thing. Let's see if we could really make it special because we're just at the end of the day, three extremely passionate people when it comes to this hobby. And, Ryan is Ryan, Rattle's Rattle, and I'm me. So the first podcast we had went great. Then the second one went great. And then the third one was almost it almost got to like this impossible feat because on the second podcast, we had PokeRev come on at the end again. So anytime PokeRev comes on, it's always like that. Ooh, man, like this is going to be really hard to top, and at least to get the conversations flowing and everything that is required for that. Now, I did reach out to Rusty prior to the podcast and just said to him like, "Hey, I just want to ask you, like, would you mind coming on the podcast? Like, I understand he doesn't like swearing, and he, I think, knew that Ryan would do a little bit of swearing. Like, there was no way around that. Like, it wasn't a question of if it was just going to happen. It was just a question of when it's going to happen. But originally, I wasn't going to tell both Ryan and Rattle that TCA was even considering coming on. And then TCA said, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." And then he put it. I had to send him a text reminder, and he was a man of his word. He showed up, and that was special. Like that, there was that live had multiple tiers to it. And the fact that TCA, I've said it before and I'll say it again, like he is the person I respect hands down above every single person in this hobby. And this is a massive hobby. So for me to point to one person and say I respect that person more than everyone else is a huge compliment I could give in on a personal level and like a man to man level. That is the greatest compliment I could give anyone, is to say that I respect them above all others. So I was very lucky. In the past, I've had Rusty on my channel. I was able to do a one-on-one interview with him. And I thought for him to come on a late night stream was more or less like an impossibility, only because he is a family man. Above all things else in his life, he will tell you family is number one. So the nighttime is definitely his family time. And, after he puts the kids to bed and stuff, he still has to like, you know, be a husband to his wife and stuff. So I thought the night was almost never going to happen. And then for him to come on the podcast, I thought was a very low chance, but he was willing to do it. And just being able to pick his brain makes that live perfect. Perfect. Just to have him on there. And then he came on, and then Gary King Pokemon came on. And while I got to be a fly on the wall in a sense, where when Gary and Rusty were just having conversation, talking about the purchases that they've made from each other in the past, just listening to them reminisce and talk about those trades. There was a point in the video where I actually stopped everybody talking. And I said, I just need everybody to know right now that this is freaking awesome. Like, I was amazed by that. Just to be able to watch them interact and the conversation and the knowledge. And yes, I understand the channel's name is Poke Knowledge, but I'm gonna mean this when I say this. That live had so much Pokemon knowledge on it. Like the knowledge that was on the screen at one point was almost like science fiction in a way. Like if you wrote it down to put all the, like most Pokemon knowledge in one stream and just like put it out there for the masses, like those were most, if not all, the people that would be some of the first to come to your mind. And then so that's it right there. If that stream were to end at that point and it was just Rusty and it was just King Pokemon on, and then me, Ryan, and Rattle, and it ended right at that point, that would have been one of the most fun, greatest lives I have ever been a part of. And then it just continued to get better. Then they were able to get Gem Mint Pokemon on. And Gem Mint is, again, one of the most well-respected, smartest, like most down-to-earth collectors and knowledgeable people in this entire hobby. And then he came on, which, watching Gem Mint come in, and Gem Mint is a person that I've been trying to get on this channel for a long time. He is a very busy man, and I don't really know him on a personal level. I have met him one time in person at the Leonhardt Pop Shop. We had a couple conversations. Really basic trainer introduced me to Gem Mint. Like, I mean, I know who Gem Mint is, but like he introduced me on a personal level, like, who I am and everything. But sometimes it is hard to get people on the channel, but because of, Ryan's relationships with him and TCA's, like Gem Mint literally woke up out of bed. So now what I consider to be one of the greatest lives I've ever had on this channel now adds another level to that with Gem Mint. And just being able to pick his brain the little bit that I was able to was perfect. I could have, and this is one thing I hope that one day we could have a live, just one-on-one, where I could really pick his brain, just to have him in there. He answers every single question perfectly. Perfect every time. And to me, to have perfection in this hobby is amazing. But his answers, when you go back and you listen to it on replay, his answers to every question are damn near perfect. It's freaking awesome. So now I got to watch King Pokemon and TCA and Gem Mint all on my channel, part of our live and part of our podcast, mine and Brian and Rattle. And just being a part of that was awesome. And then Pokemon Radar came on. And then, the fact that uh, Ryan's friend David came on, and he's somebody we're also going to have on the channel in the future. The fact that he was able to share his experience grading an Illustrator Pikachu. There's a very small, minimal amount of people could ever utter those words that they have personally graded a Illustrator Pikachu. And then, we had Pokemon Classics came on, and then Jake came on, and Dan Catchmall Collectibles. But before all that happened, Scott Pratt came on because Gary just called him up on the phone and brought Scott on. Scott is one of the more elusive people to ever get on Alive. Like, you can probably count it on one hand all the times he's ever been live, just in general, let alone on other people's channels. It goes down to like one or two that comes to the top of my mind, lives that he's been on. And some of those lives are like even pretty niche. They only have like 1,000 views, some of those, because they're on other people's channels, and they're tough to find. Like, that's how elusive of a person he is to come on Alive. That was it. To have all those people on the same podcast, just the logistics of it too, and the fact of how organic it was, meaning, yes, TCA was planning on coming on. With the exception of TCA, every other person was a phone call and came on literally on a Friday night. And some of these people were coming on at like 12 midnight Eastern time. It wasn't like it was a 5 o'clock or 7 p.m. live and everybody had it on their schedules and on their calendar and they were ready for it and they were prepared for it. It's kind of funny going back, and I mean, it's funny. Maybe we should have been more clear, but like the fact that Gem Mint didn't know that it was live, and the fact that SM Pratt didn't know that this was being live streamed. And at one point I was able to go back and look at the YouTube analytics of the video. There was like 43, so there's 4,300 comments in that live. 4,300, meaning the community. And really, when it boils down to it, this podcast is for the community. Yes, we as co-hosts get a ton of enjoyment doing this podcast, but at the end, we do it for the community so the community can be engaged. That means the community was engaging with that video and within the chat themselves, talking to each other, having conversations. They did that 4,300 different times within that live. They wrote a message, and that is awesome. The community is what makes these videos. But like, just that was awesome. And 307 people were watching that live at one time. This is a channel that grew out of the pandemic, and I struggled to get like 10 views on some of my earlier videos. To just have 307 people sitting in one live at one time watching us talk about Pokemon is freaking awesome. I am so happy about how Friday night played out. I don't know if we could ever top it. I mean, there's definitely some people that I wish could have joined who weren't able to. Like, I know I sent out a bunch of messages. I know other people sent out messages, but just to get the group of people we got, and it's going to be a hard one to top. I don't really know if we can top it in a way, but when I say looking at the screen, looking at the people there, I mean, this doesn't even include the fact that Dan Catchmall Collectibles decided to open up some heavy packs, and the first pack he opened was just an unlimited base set pack, but he freaking pulled the Zard. Like, this live, like that one moment alone would be enough to cement like Alive in the history of Pokemon, because there is very, very few Charizards that have ever been pulled live. There's plenty of Charizards that have been pulled on pre-recorded videos and in the past, and in people's, house and on the schoolyards and all that stuff. But to do that live, that is a very rare thing to ever happen. It's happened only on a very small handful of times. So just that Charizard being pulled was enough to like kind of make Pokemon history in a way. And just to have on, and then to have Radar on, and how much knowledge Radar has. And it's always fun just talking to him too. And he got to show off some of his recent cards, some of his recent purchases. But listening to Gary talk about Pokemon and listening to Gary talk about Pokemon on a level that none of us were doing when he was doing it is such an, like the insight he brings and the experience he brings is so hard for anybody to relate to. Like he talks about doing mass openings, 120 booster boxes in like 2011. First of all, out of all the people watching this video right now, if you added every single person in here and said, how many base set booster box have you opened? We as a group, as a community, we can't even get close to that number of 120. And he as one man did that in a time when nobody was collecting Pokemon, or definitely not at the level he was doing. And so you hear his history, but then to go back and hear what Gem Mint was talking about him chasing, WotC hollows and tens for $35, $40. And, the change in the mindset of how he would nickel and dime sometimes back in the day over, maybe a $35 card and, offer somebody 30 and then they would come back at $33. And like, the nickel and diamond and the grinding he was doing back then in order to grow his collection to where it is now. When it comes to slabbed set cards, his is probably the number one in the world. It's definitely number one when it comes to the closest to being completed. And then, you know, I don't even think we talked about when PokeRev came on yet, which is crazy to think about because talk about being an awesome dude. I understand that he's Ryan's best friend and they have, this awesome relationship with which you could see it. You could see it when Ryan talks about Rev. You can see it in Rev's face when he talks about Ryan. Like that is the truest form of friendship that's out there. But the fact that he's willing to come on and, donate his time, like you're talking a man who has recently broke the million subscriber count on YouTube. And not only did he break the million subscriber count, he is going to hit 2 million subscribers probably pretty fast because the rate and the speed and the quality and everything he's doing in the Pokemon, he is hands down by far the number one PokeTube. I understand his subscriber count currently is not number one, but he is easily on pace to hit the number one, largest PokeTuber in this entire hobby, which is crazy that he's willing to come on. And it was like this crazy experience that it's very hard to even like articulate it now, thinking back on it and trying to think back on the experiences. And I can't believe it happened. Like, I understand that this is probably not a video that a lot of you guys are going to like, but I'm telling you, I had to make this video because if I didn't get this thought out, like to just be able to talk about what happened and to like get this out of my system, I honestly would probably never be able to make a video ever again because this thought would be on my brain so like heavily. When I woke up in the morning, my wife came up to me and she said, "How did your live go last night?" I looked her straight in the face and I said, "I think it might have been the greatest live that ever happened." Like I looked at her and she was like, "Oh, that's nice." Like I couldn't even explain to her the craziness that happened, how special that night was. It's a night that I will live with me for the rest of my life. Like I will never forget that. And I think people will look back on it and they'll say, "How the hell did anybody pull this off? How is this even a possibility?" And yeah, it went off the rails a little bit and stuff. And I understand like sometimes people definitely want to hear some people talk, and maybe that could get a little hard, but it gets hard to when you have that many people to have everybody like answer. You know, you could have a single question and everybody answers that one question. And even if they, you got 12 people on there and everybody just answers it very quickly and it only takes about 2 minutes for somebody to answer, that's like 24 minutes per question. So it does get hard. And I'm going to do my best to maybe not moderate. Moderate is a bad word. I don't really like the thought behind that word, like moderate it, but I'll do my best to like, try to give everybody their platforms and let everybody talk and stuff like that. But it's hard, especially when you have so many people, like just to give people time to talk. But man, it was awesome, huh? Like, yeah. So Dark Lava Lizard, I'm looking down on the chat. Dark Lava Lizard said PK probably didn't sleep at all that night. I like didn't. I laid down in my bed and I was like wide awake. And I was like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? And this is the craziest thing. I don't think that this is something that will never be able to be reached again, too. That is how hopeful I am for this podcast. I honestly think that this podcast, like, this will definitely be up there as one of the best episodes that we'll ever have. But I don't think this will be, the end all be all of it. I think this is only the beginning. And if we can somehow truly make this podcast special, where this becomes something where, you know, we're Rattle has already done something pretty awesome where he has now made his Friday night premieres. There's a lot of people like build their Friday night schedule around his premiere. It airs at a good time. If you're not really doing anything, it airs at a time, at least on the Eastern Coast, where, your kids are already in bed and stuff, and you could sit down and enjoy it. And, he brings that comedy aspect to it. And his Rat to Hell, Channel 69, like news anchor and all you could see it every week. Like he's constantly changing. He's seeing what works, what doesn't work, and he's making it his own. So to turn that and then to have that premiere be live directly into this podcast, I'm hoping that the podcast gets to the level that his premieres are at, where people already start to get excited about it. And the fact that it's once a month, that is a decent amount of time to spread out episodes where people will start to potentially look forward to those. And I think it's the podcast series is so early that maybe we're not there yet, but I'm hoping people are going to start to be like, okay, in a month from now, and when we get closer to the date, we once everybody figures out their schedules, like we have that locked in date. And I'm hoping that people start to like look forward to that and get excited about this podcast, and to continue to just, you know, all the things that come with that too is, growing the channel and growing Ryan's channel and Rattle's channel. But then I'm hoping that by having all these people join, like we did last week, it will be easier in the future to get more guests on. You know, there's there's a lot of people that I could think of that I would have loved to have seen join that. I would have loved if Danny Phantom could have joined. I messaged him, but he was unable to go on. I'd love to see Squeaks join that. I love to see Charlie Herlocker join that. You know, there's a bunch of people that I would really love to, have join that at the end. And then there's some even smaller PokeTubers that I hope we can join, like Joe, Echo Base Collectibles. He was unavailable. He was not in the chat. But if he was on, I would have loved to have him come on too. Just super knowledgeable people. And, shout out to Echo Base Collectibles. If you're not subscribed to his channel, I recommend you go subscribe. But he did comment in that video because we asked the question at the beginning, how were Pop Series packs handed out to like people running leagues? And he said they were given out in Ziploc bags of 25. So it'd be 25 Pop Series packs per Ziploc bag, and that's how they were given to the people that headed up these leagues. So at least we got an answer to that. And but like, talk about Pokemon knowledge, like I wish we had him on to share that real time. But there's a lot of people that I hope will be able to join in the future, and I think we are just getting to the beginning of that. So now I'm going to go read some of the chat. I didn't want to make this like a super long video because it is a little late. I did wait for the Pokenomics stream to end. That's why I made this one a little late. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of familiar names in the chat right now. A lot of people that were in the chat during that live. Candyman, Chief Kane, Pokemon Collector, Poke Collectibles, Ancient Mew, I see. PTCG Vlogs, Card Movers, Science Guy, like Northwoods. Good to see all you guys. But yeah, PTCG Vlog says that was probably the greatest Pokemon live in history. And I'm going to be extremely biased, but I agree with that statement. Card Mover said, I was in the live and I never saw anything like it. Yeah, so many people were in the Zoom. It almost was like overwhelming at a point, but it's so cool to listen to just people bullshit. And this is where I think some people, where their arguments against that live would be, was y- you want us to kind of like sit down, and because there was so much knowledge that all those guys have, that you just want it to be like 100% strictly about Pokemon and literally can't talk about anything else. Like, we know Ryan likes to bring up his cat and stuff like that, but you have to understand, most, if not all of us in that live were friends. Or if we were not friends, we know each other, or you just become friends because of a very common shared interest, which is obviously Pokemon. So you become friends, and you're going to talk to people in the live the same way you would talk to your friend. And I know that sometimes people don't want like the conversation to ever sort of get derailed at all. But you need to understand, like, at the end of the day, a lot of us are talking to our friends. So it is almost impossible to reel it back 100% and just make it about Pokemon. But like, when we ask questions, we leave it up to the chat to like ask questions. If you do have like your more nichier type questions that you think that only some of the people would be able to answer, like, that's when you have your opportunity in the chat to write your question. And yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that. Poke Collectible said, congrats that you managed that and had that experience on your channel. Yeah, man. Uh, Gackle A said, I'm sure you woke up thinking it was a dream. I did. I woke up like on a high. This is crazy. Like, we talk about like Pokemon and dopamine rush and, like the pack opening experience and all this stuff. The dopamine rush I got on that live was like nothing I have ever experienced in this hobby. Like, yeah, I got to watch Basic Trainer open up that base set Zard at the Leonhardt Pop Shop, which is crazy now that two people that I'm friends with in this hobby have both pulled base set Zards out of base set packs. Like, and literally the last two packs that I know that were opened by my friends, both of them hit Zards, which is ridiculous. But like, just getting the dopamine rush from people opening cards that I don't even own. Like, that is their card, but I was just so freaking happy for both Basic Trainer when he pulled his Zard, and for Dan. Like, just legit freaking happy. Like, and that's the thing. So the reason I mention stuff like that is when people say, like, oh, this hobby's dying and all this stuff, and people talk about like, oh, there was price retraces for this card and modern product, or this product went up in price but this one went down, and all that blah 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 stuff. You can just point to that live. If people ever question if this hobby will be around in 5 years or 10 years from now, you just show them that video and you say, just look at this screen right now. Listen to the way they're talking, listen to the passion they have about this hobby. If you think Pokemon as a hobby is going to go to zero and is going to be gone in 5 years, like, some people are like, well, you could always entertain it. You can't. I'm just gonna say no to that right now. That proves it that this hobby will be around. Now, we'll all like, the stonkers and the day traders of Pokemon and all that stuff, like, will they be here from now? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. That I don't know. But the core group of this hobby, the people that are super engaged, and that's something we talk about on this channel a lot, is the people we're talking to on these videos are the very small percentage of this hobby. You know, when you look at Pokemon selling 9 billion cards, and yeah, that video for me is super successful. It's going to have like, a couple thousand views on it, and the most ridiculous amount of watch hours like I have ever seen on a video. Like, the watch hours on that are next level, like make believe. It's insane how many watch hours that video has. But the people watching that, or the people that can sit down and watch 12 grown men talk about Pokemon for almost 5 hours with passion and excitement, that group of this hobby is a very, very small percentage. But that percentage will be around in 5 years. They will be around in 10 years, and they'll probably, as morbid as it says, will never outlive Pokemon. Pokemon will outlive us all, meaning we're not going to outlive Pokemon. Like, that's how we feel, at least when it comes to that super core group. Like what people's collections will look like. Will they be smaller? Will they be larger? That question is to be determined. But the core, like, love of this, that will never go away. The Candyman Can says, it was like watching Avengers Endgame. It all came together so epically. Yeah, man, it was freaking awesome. Gackle said he's pissed Rudy didn't join. Dude, if Rudy joined, that would have brought it to a next level. Gerald Rowland said, that was such an amazing live. I've watched it multiple times since the live as well. Chris Texas said, next month going to be lit, man. Yeah, I'm hoping I hope you guys are looking forward to these like month to month, because I know I am. Science Guy 87 says, Rattle's Brady Bunch comment was so accurate. That's hilarious. That was such a cool live. Hopefully this is the first of many huge PokeTuber collabs. Yeah, I think so. I think this is the first of many. I personally love these podcasts in your lives because when I'm at work in different factories, etc., it can be very monotonous having these on my AirPods, listening and enjoying the hobby talk. Appreciate that. Trap Rock Bang. Still working. Fantastic. Thank you for your channel. No problem, man. Steve Thompson said, do you feel like the podcast needs a name and some branding? We talked about should it have a name, but we couldn't decide one. So I just called it Rants. Like, that's how all the podcasts, just rants. I don't know how else to phrase it. And, I guess you add like your keyword, like get Pokemon in the title, but I don't know. I'd rather have the branding, as selfish as this is. I just kind of want the branding to be, the Cool Trainer Ryan, Rattle, and PK podcast. Like, I guess that is selfish to want like to be connected to the podcast, but because I am so proud of what it's doing and I'm so happy, like, I love that my name is attached to it. Like, that gives me a lot of like happiness, and it's something I have a lot of pride right now when it comes to that. So just for people, so maybe it would be hard to ever have branding. I just kind of want the branding to be the people that it's associated with. And hopefully the people that come on will be enjoying it so much that they'll want to be associated with that podcast too. And, be able to say like, now this is, big picture, like end game goals. And this might be, maybe an unrealistic expectation, but I hope that when we have people on in the future, they're like, I hope someday we get to the point where somebody will be like telling their friends, like, dude, I'm going on the Cool Trainer Ryan, Rattle, and PK Pokemon podcast. Like, I hope that sentence one day gets uttered, and for people to literally be so excited about this, because I hope it does turn into like an event in the community, because this community is freaking awesome. Hands down, the Pokemon community is the best community that I've ever been a part of. Like, and to be able to have it be an event where everybody, like, in a way, gets excited to be a part of it, even if they're not on the actual live itself, that they're still part of the chat and part of the conversing and all that stuff that happens. Like, I hope that this podcast is able to do that, because to my understanding, and at least from my experience in this hobby, like, there are definitely like the sporadic podcasts that happens, but nothing of like this sort of like event feel to it, because at the end of the day, it is a live chat, and most people don't even like to go live. Some of the more edited, when you go live, that's it. There's no edit it button. Like, you say something dumb, you say something crazy, you say something that you regret saying, it's out there. It's on that podcast, and it's not leaving it. So there's a lot of people like want that edit feature, but we don't have it. And then, shout out to Ryan, but like, you throw Ryan on any podcast, it's going to be a wild card 100% of the time, with like all certainty. There's not a lot of guarantees in life, but that is always a guarantee. But Kevin Clear said 7 a.m. stream needs to happen. Gakale said, I have a name on the comment. PK should use it. First ever uncut sheet of Pokemon collectors. That's a pretty good one. I like that. See Cheval's in the chat. Good to see you, bud. Cheval's one of my mods. Mason Berry said, you had something like two. First Blitz Foray said, random facts were dropping that night. Yeah. Mason Berry said, you had something like 200 years of Pokemon collecting on stream all at once. Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. And, I am a little disappointed that Mason didn't want to come on. I definitely tried my best, and I'm pretty sure the chat tried a lot to, give a little bit of peer pressure to get Mason on, but I think he was just a little too busy. I sent him 2 invites to the stream. Really tried to get him on, but he wasn't able to. Jake's Corner TCG said that live stream was second to none. Yeah, man. Kevin Clare said, I think Rusty was fine with cursing. It was the weed talk. Nope. Gonna be associated with that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Kevin, you're right. Like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. But I see William Lewis said, are you on cloud 9? Dude, I'm on cloud 69 right now. Like I am still on a high. Like that's why I said maybe people probably aren't going to want to watch this video and hear me just reminisce on. Okay, let's think about what this live is right now. This is a live of me reminiscing about a live that happened on Friday night, which is ridiculous. I'm doing this for me. I need to get this off my chest because, like I said, if I don't, then it's just downhill from here. But one thing too, if you haven't commented on that video, on that live, I recommend you taking the time and just putting a comment, because we don't do a lot of giveaways on this channel, but we're doing a pretty awesome giveaway. Plus, I got a lot of super chats and stuff for that video. Me, Ryan, and Rattle, we're not doing this for the money or anything. So all that super chat and stuff and all the ad revenue and all that, we're just going to go right back to you guys. Like the logistics of splitting like a couple $100 is just give it to the viewers. So we're going to do some pretty awesome giveaway. Like, I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to come out of Ryan's collection. Like, I'm going to give him the money for it. We're going to split it. So it's going to be vintage-esque, maybe not base set vintage, but it might be like black and white vintage or heart gold, soul silver. A lot of the stuff Ryan has. Like, I don't know what we're going to be giving away or what the dollar amount's going to be, but it's going to be freaking worth it to just comment on that video and think about like your odds. If there's only like 1,000 comments on that video, like maybe 1,000 is a lot, but it's still pretty good odds. And very rare would we ever do a giveaway where whoever wins this, I am going to be jealous that you won it. Like, I will legit be jealous that you won it because it will be that cool. And that live we'll draw it live. So there'll be no questions during our next podcast a month from now. We're just going to pull it live, do a comment picker, pull the name. So you definitely need to comment on that last video. Let's see. Dougie Fresh said, memes to dreams, man. Yeah, you're right, dude. Pokemon collector, you probably have a higher chance of hitting the lottery than seeing that happen again. Also, possibility. Collecting Chaos says, I think you guys can. I mean, the podcast is only going to grow from here. I hope so. And I think one of the toughest things to do too is just to get people talking, right? And from what I've already experienced, so I know it to be a fact, like people are already talking about that as being pretty epic. And if you watch it real time or you watch it after the fact and you watch what was needed for that to grow, like a lot of those people probably wouldn't have joined that live if like the person before them didn't join it. Does that make sense? Like, you don't get Scott on unless Gary joins, but you don't get Gary on unless Rattle's a co-host, So you need Rattle to be there to get Gary, who gets Scott. And then at that point, I feel like anybody who was awake, because of those people that were on, we could have just gotten everybody except for Charlie Herlocker. He was sleeping, but like, and then you get PokeRev on, but you'd only get PokeRev on if Ryan's on the channel. And then, Pokemon Classics came on and I sent the invite to Pokemon Classics, and Radar came on because I sent the invite to Radar. And then Dave came on because Ryan, and, like, then Jake reached out to me. So Jake Pokenomics only comes on if I send him the invite. And then Jake sent it to Dan. Like, you needed all these people to be involved in this live. Like, you can't put that together with just one person. Like, I do not have the Rolodex where I could just call down the list of people and be like, get on, get on, get on. No, it needed to be a complete, like, team effort to get everybody on at one time. And then, when I got Rusty on, that was because I'm very grateful that Rusty has reached out to me and like give me his number and like all that stuff, and being able to just call him on the phone and talk to him and help him set up the Zoom. Like, even silly things like that is exciting, Um, but yeah, it was a lot of little pieces that needed to happen to make this big picture kind of like happen. Uh, Kevin Clear said, or see Ray Q on. He said, "What up?" Kevin Clear said, "Can definitely top it, bro. Logan gonna have to come on." Yeah. Northwood said that Zard pull was fire. Yeah, that was crazy. And then this is the Zard Hunter just brought up a great point. He pulled the top Spectra Pikachu too. Like, that's one of the best tops cards you could pull, is that Pikachu Spectra card. And then it had the back-to-back Pikachus. And that pack even had the Blastoids in it. That pack was freaking stacked. That was a ridiculous pack. Like, just that pack alone, I can't even. It's crazy we don't even talk about that pack. We're just so focused on the Zard. That's how epic those two packs were. Like, Dan had some fire luck. Like, that dude should have went out and bought a lotto ticket that night. Or maybe not buy a lotto ticket, because I'm pretty sure he used all his luck on those two packs. But that was freaking fire, man. That was awesome. Wes Bragg said, the impromptu, we can get on, or the impromptu, who can we get on, was great. Yeah. He said, I'll admit that, but it could have been more organized for questions, answers. I guess it could have been more organized, but it wasn't planned. Like, yeah, that was the hard part. Pokin Fun said, I have every single base set card me and my brother ever opened. It's probably 400 cards. So a single booster box between two people in 98.99. Yeah. So Pokin Fun has opened about one booster box. Gary just casually in 2011 opened a pallet, 120 of them. Yeah, Kevin Clare said we need to put questions at hand on screen. Yeah. William Lewis said you're in the history books, BK. Yeah, man, I think you are right. It was definitely a historical night. Let's see. Oh God, why does it do this? It just fucking jumps to the bottom of the chat. Sorry, lost my spot. All right. Northwoods TCG said 100% agrees. Everyone on it got hard to watch because it was everywhere. Yeah, the conversation does go everywhere. That is true, but like I said, it's almost impossible. Wes said, wonder how many times PK has rewatched that stream. I haven't watched it once yet because I've been super busy. I went to the Yankee Sox game last night and spent the whole day in New York City on Saturday. So I literally didn't even have time to watch it. But like, as we were taking the train into New York and stuff, and all my friends were talking and stuff, and like in my head, I was just replaying the live, just like super excited, like super weird. I know. But the Green Shiz says, of course it happens while I'm camping. Can't wait to listen tomorrow, man. Dude, you missed something, but it was epic. You'll enjoy the replay. Especially like, if this is a thing too, if you're a fan of long form content, like that will give you something to listen to for a while. The people that listen to all these podcasts on normal speed, I don't know how you do it. You got to hit it on 2x, but Aiden said he left when Rusty was on and saw all 12 on the thumbnail this morning. Thought it was a joke or something. Yeah, man. See Ancient Mew in the chat. Let's see you, bud. Wes said, I seen PK trying to get certain people to answer certain questions while keeping everything on track. He handled a big group way better than most would. Credit, dude. I respect that. There was definitely a part, though, where my mic was on mute and I had no clue it was on mute, and the chat kind of went a little crazy. But Jay's Corner TCG said, still fairly new to your channel and don't comment much, but he looks forward to seeing you Rattle and Ryan together. Yeah. And I hope that if anybody takes anything out of today's video, is that the key thing to take out of this is that it is our podcast. It is not my podcast. It is our podcast. It is Ryan's, Rattles, and mine. It is an equal parts, all three of our podcasts. So that is something I just want everybody to make sure they're taking that one thing out of this, that it is an equal part, and it just happens to be on my channel. But other than that, that doesn't really matter. It's an equal part. Like, it is a three-way our podcast. So I just want, because I was seeing some people saying like it was my podcast, and it's not. Like, I have podcast type videos, but that is specifically ours, meaning it's an equal three of us. I see the man of the hour right there, Rattle. He said, what's up, PK? Yeah, good to see you, man. We had a lot of fun Friday night, and I was just pretty much trying to get everything off my chest of what happened and trying to talk through it because it was freaking awesome. Let's see. Aaron Scott says, your mic looks like a reprint and not real. Gary can get Logan, the chain is growing. Pokin Fun said, if you want to reach more people, definitely think have to pull back on the F-bombs, but it's supposed to be boys talk and chaotic. But does it work if you had to dial it back, algorithm rules and all? So none of our videos are made for children. So it's for 18 and up or whatever. So the swearing is what it is. Like, if we could tell, I mean, I'm not going to even ask Ryan to pull it back. Like, I don't want to, because that's what Ryan is. And like, I swear sometimes I would never, I just wouldn't ever ask Ryan to pull it back, because the second he does that, like, he would stop being truly organic. And his true no filter organicness that Ryan has is one of the best parts of him as just a person in general, is that true organicness he has. Now, do you agree with everything he says? Maybe not, but I would never ask him to like pull back the swearing. So yeah, that's something like people either have to get over or not. Like, you can't change somebody, like, and I would never ask him to either. KOL said Logan is the new Gary. Gary will be gone in 5 years. I don't think about that. Dougie Fresh said no more F-bombs. William Lewis said, imagine just having allotted times for certain groups of PokeTubers. That's something interesting too, where it doesn't get like too massive, but I don't know. It's hard enough like lining up one guest for a podcast. I can't even imagine the logistics of trying to like line up a dozen. Let's see. Brad says, I hope you ignore all the folks saying no F-bombs. You guys need to be yourself. That's what makes it so real. Yeah, like, that's just what it's going to come down to. Chris says he loves the genuine personalities. Wes said, Gary and Ryan will go off on rants about completely different subjects. LOL. It's still entertaining. Rusty got in on the cat combo. Even PK brought it back around the Pokemon. Yeah. Like I said, when you're talking to your friends, you're just going to talk about stuff sometimes. Like, even though you have 300 people watching, like, sometimes you get so in depth just talking. It's just like talking to your friend when you're talking about a certain topic. And sometimes, you'll start a topic and then you kind of an hour later have to say, wait, how do we get to this topic? And it's like, oh, yeah, this really like went off the rails. But Dougie Fresh says PK never sell out. I'm not selling out, man. I'm doing this because I want to do this. This is more fun. I have the excitements I'm having right now with just Pokemon in general is at an all-time high because of conversations like this. Like this is getting me super pumped, man. Like Pokemon is one of those hobbies that a lot of people do. I call it like in the shadows in a way. While Pokemon to us is an extremely mainstream thing where you could talk to any single person in this chat and have a full blown Pokemon conversation. In your general life, on your general day to day, that is probably next to impossible. And if you do have a friend, you have only one or two that you can maybe talk about Pokemon, not at this like, and especially not at this level. Like for me to talk to my friends about Pokemon, forget about it. Like I would never be able to like talk about this hobby in the way we talk about it in the nichiest of stuff, you know, like when I pulled out the 2-player starter decks and like checking the variants to see if like one of them has the potential to be shadowless, but it didn't, so I didn't open it. But like, good luck walking up to a random person on the street and saying, "Hey, can I ask you about 2-player, you know, base set starter decks? And we talk about the variants if they're not obvious shadowless with the gold strip and stuff? And like, if you got the energies on the back and it doesn't say 10 damage counters, is it well, you know, like, does it open from the side? Does it open from the top? Good luck on your daily life, like being able to ask those questions." Blazer OP said, Cool Train Ryan is about to hit 20K subs being himself. I would say the F bombs help with people like in the content creators. Dude, Cool Train Ryan is about to hit 100,000 subscribers pretty soon. I get it that he's only coming up on 20,000, but his content is freaking, he's killing it right now. Like, it's because he's an awesome dude. And the he's just real. Like, to find truly real people is very tough. And then to be able to have them just talk like they do, real, like you might not like it, but you fucking gotta respect it. Like you really gotta respect it. And I think he's freaking awesome. And I'm so happy to be part of the podcast with him. Like, let's see. Blitz says Rattle was really on point with his comments through the live. Blazer said he didn't like Cool Trainer Ryan when he first saw him on Red's channel, but now he's his favorite and he tubes every video. So something's working. Yeah, man. It's the realness is working for him. Gackle said Logan Paul's first edition box opening may have been the peak of the hype, but the Friday night podcast was on peak for him in terms of what the hobby is all about. I hope we get sequels. We will, man. I appreciate that comment. Poking Fun says I'm here for the F bombs. Kevin Clare says it can get better. It was awesome, but it needs dialed in. You are correct. And everything is a work in process, man. Like I pray to God that that last live isn't the top of the mountain for us. I hope that is literally just the beginning, because if that means it's just the beginning, that means we could get to new highs and new levels and really make it something freaking special and really turn it into an event the same way Rattle does his premieres. Just like that event, people are looking like Rattle's premiere for a lot of people, including myself. Like it's something I look forward to all week. Like just to be able, because just to be able to sit back, watch his lives, like watch the comedy he brings and, you know, his takes and, you know, all the silliness that goes on. Like that is already an event in this community. But if we ever get that podcast to the next level, Blazer OP said he noticed that Chloe was in the chat too at the same time, but she was graceful as always. I didn't even know she was in the chat. Maybe we would have brought her on if she would have been willing. Kevin Clear said, "There you go. Call it the Unsheet podcast or Uncut Sheet podcast because it's like Brady Bunch on screen." Blazer said, "You're one of my favorites as well, PK. I've been a sub since almost you were new, and I remember looking to memes and making my day with all the hype piece making videos. It was a breath of fresh air. I appreciate that, man." See Professor Oak in the chat. Shout out to Professor Oak. Oh, we send in our love to him. He's a good guy. If you guys are not subscribed to Professor Oak, recommend you guys giving him a subscribe. Poking Fun said CTR is great. He's not afraid to blast other people. No, he's not. He said he's reached out to Cool Trainer Ryan out of nowhere, and you would have thought we knew each other for years, and he took care of him. That's pretty awesome. The people were saying like the things that would happen to like get Logan on, and Logan gets like Floyd Mayweather on. That's a crazy comment. I hope that doesn't happen. Jay's Corner TCG said everything had to line up perfectly for it to work. You are right. It was a perfect storm of just awesomeness. See Master Trainer Ryan in the chat. Rattle said thrifty TCG 3-way with equal amounts of pitching and catching. Let's see. Only Fantasy Card says Ryan is himself and people can relate to him truly being him. Exactly. Ryan said, let me actually try this YouTube thingy, and started moving. Yeah. He's doing a good job, man. He's crushing it. Yeah, Kevin Clare said, smash that like button. What's going on? How come we only have however many likes we have? Smash that like button. People are saying they don't think Maximo will come on, but you never know. So Gakule said, one interesting thought that was in his mind while watching the podcast is how different all these collectors are in terms of, character, age, background, and yet have so much in common in the hobby. That is one of the awesome things about Pokemon. Pokemon is cross-generational at this point. It doesn't worry about politics. It doesn't worry about like anything. Everybody in Pokemon is, well, like accepted, respected. Like you have a very shared common interest with people. Like Pokemon is freaking awesome. It could bring people together. Pokin' said Chloe 100% was in the chat, and I think SM Pratt said he sent her the link in Zoom when Cool Trainer Ryan was about to leave. Oh, okay. So I made it to the bottom of the chat. Good job. That's what I was trying to do. Somebody, I think it was Dark Lava Lizard, told me not to do lives unless I interact with the chat. And I'm doing my best to interact with the chat on every single live. And I made it to the bottom. So that was awesome. That podcast was awesome. I'm looking forward to the next one. The sky's the limit. I don't know what the next one has in store, but it's going to be awesome. I hope you guys appreciated it. I'm glad I got to do this video. I'm glad I was able to get all this off my chest. I'm going to say it one more time before I end the video. You need to comment on that last video so you are entered into that giveaway. You need to like the video. You need to sub to myself, sub to Ryan, and sub to Rattle in order to be entered. But I promise you, it's going to be a good giveaway. You're definitely going to want to be a part of it. And for every single one of you guys that join this live, join the live on Friday. If you haven't had a chance to watch that video, go back and watch it. It was a lot of fun. Epic. Pokemon history was made. I'm so freaking happy to have been a part of it. Freaking awesome. But with that said, catch all you guys on the next video.